And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
If you cannot speak and talk about the history of who they are, then they will not really carry your story. They will not understand their story. So today, the first thing I was the greatest revelation I was telling you a while back, is that most people trying to reach, and I'm going to specifically talk today, and next week will be Spanish, the following week the Asian, etc. But I'm going to talk specifically today about the black culture. And I wanted to right now, I know, and how many would agree that I am not black? Can I get a witness, everybody? Amen. Praise God. Praise God. Pretty white to me. Can I get an amen up in here? Yeah. Praise God. Amen. So here's the deal. But what I want to share with you is I want to talk to you about is that, you know, we went across the country and we found out there's certain things that help reach that culture and reach it effectively. And there's certain things that don't make it happen. Okay. And today I would like to talk about those things that do reach the culture, specifically the men of the culture. And the first thing I found out is this. I found out that they do not know their history. That's one of the things that I know. And so you have to tell them their history. So today I'm going to attempt to do that.
I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. If you guys can hear me, type 1 inside the comment section. Let me go ahead and get everything set up. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I really did a playbook, and I'm not going to do a full one tonight because of what I'm working on. Let me go ahead and get this going here. If you guys can hear me, just go ahead and type 1 inside the comment section. Let's see here. All right, cool. All right, I know this is not a scheduled playbook. I've been in the lab, so to speak, working on dropping a video over the weekend. I'm going to address a lot of things this weekend, continue to address some of the foolishness that you guys are aware of. So I just kind of made that my priority to get this video done to address some teachings that I've been wanting to teach anyway. So before I get started with that, and I just want to go ahead and go through the comment section and just say peace and blessings to your family. I want to say Shabbat Shalom. I want to start with Shirley Greer. I want to say peace and blessings to you, sister. Devorah Cotton. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Yvette Rivera. want to say shalom to you. My sister Carol, want to say Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Appreciate you, sis. And I'll drop the invitation in the comment section if you want to jump in as we uh, get into the lesson here. I want to say peace and blessings to Hannah Bithya. I want to say peace and blessings to you, Just Reese. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you as well, covering all the bases. Dr. Kit, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, or Shabbat Shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Let's see here. Let's see. Southern Girl Chef, want to say shalom to you. Memphis, okay. All right. Haven't been to Memphis in a while when I used to do consulting work out for a company, particular company. I'm not going to mention their name, but I had to go out to Memphis a few times to facilitate consolidating data centers out there at the Army Reserves out there. No, not the Army Reserves, it was the Navy Reserves. So yeah, I want to say peace and blessings to you, Southern Girl Chef. And I tell you, one thing I learned about Memphis, man, you guys, boy, y'all got that dry rub down to a T. First time I ever seen barbecue sauce, being sold at the airport. So peace and blessings to you. I want to say Arian Ya Ari, want to say Shabbat Shalom to you. Sonia Johnson, want to say Shalom to you as well. My boy, my buddy, Dr. Jay Heist, I want to say peace and blessings to you. You said, I am out of the boonies where the reception keeps going in and out, but I am listening. Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm actually coming out of hibernation, so to speak. And I definitely understand being in those areas. Who else do we have here? Peace and blessings, Sister Lynn. Who else do we have here? Caritha Haith. Let's see. Roy Tatum, want to say peace and blessings to you. Shalom to you. Yvette Rivera. Who is this right here? Excuse me. I don't want to butcher the name here. Forgive me if I butchered. I can't tell what it says here. I believe it's Pakish Home 95. Well, forgive me if I butcher your name. Like the old school would say, charge it to my head, not to my heart. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your schedule to tune in tonight. Who else do we have here? Econ True, want to say peace and blessings to you. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Let's see who else do we have here. Zena Motley, want to say peace and blessings to you. Major, I want to say shalom to you. Tried in the way, want to say shalom to you as well. All right. I think we got everyone. Again, I know this is a last minute, spare the moment live that I am doing here. I'm sure others are probably doing lives right now, but I just want to jump on and do a quick live. I don't like to have too much time go in between the lives that I do, so I just wanted to do something real quick. Even though I'm going to touch on this over the weekend, I want to touch on this. Prayerfully, I can have the video done tonight and have it uploaded by tomorrow night. If not, it'll be done by Sunday for sure. And so this will be part 2, and I'm going to be addressing a lot here. So with the whole situation with the manufactured Issachar thing that he stirred up, the good thing about it is it's going to allow me to address some things that I've been wanting to address. I want to address the whole Bantu thing. I want to address some of the things that he's been teaching and a few others. And some of the things that they have injected into this awakening. And I'm going to show you that, he shouldn't be teaching the scriptures. I'm going to show you a lot of contradictions continuing on what I brought out in the initial video. So we have a lot going on. Let's see here. I appreciate you, Southern Girl Chef. I thank you for the support. I really appreciate you. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate you. And so I want to say Sadiq Ben Yisrael, I want to say peace and blessings to you. So okay, yeah, definitely Southern girl. I'll definitely let you know when I am out in that area. Appreciate you. And but nevertheless, for some of you guys that may not be familiar with Issachar, he is someone that's been in this truth per se for a while. He actually was doing his ministry with Hebrew Nation. He was under Hebrew Nation for a period of time or whatever. And, there was a falling out because of the stuff that he got involved in terms of the stuff that he was teaching. And, you know, he and I initially, it wasn't like a connection in terms of actually meeting each other or anything like that. But when I was dealing with a situation of, another pastor who wanted to, have a debate or a discussion about polygamy. And so the pastor decided to go in full slander mode, you know, uh, and began to, for months, rail against me, insult my family, insult my wife, the whole nine. And so I sat quiet for 3 months, didn't say anything until the Most High just told me to go ahead and, address that. But in the midst of that, Issachar, one of the very few that spoke up and said, "Hey, I have every right to defend my wife." Not saying that I needed his confirmation or anything like that, but he was one of the ones that spoke and said, "Hey, I have every right to defend my family, defend my wife, and that it was wrong for him to bring my wife and insult my wife." Right. But nevertheless, uh, unfortunately, things took a sudden turn about a month ago. Hebrew Nation released a video and a series that's a powerful documentary, and I encourage you guys to see it. And I'll play the commercial for it as well. So, in his unfortunate jealousy, he decided to do videos, do a live, and he honed in on me and a few others, stating that we are bringing our people back into captivity, and said some other disingenuous things inside that video. Well, make a long story short, I made a response to him in terms of went to Sister E. She invited me on her channel to talk about it. And I made it clear that I still had love for him, but I was just upset and disappointed that he went that route. But nevertheless, he did some, a few crazy things, quite a few crazy things. And there's some things I never thought he was, the depths that he would stoop to try to justify save face. So, make a long story short, I did it. I released the video part one last week, addressing it and calling him out on his contradictions. Everything he says is a contradiction, right? So, what I'm going to address this weekend is some additional contradictions, some things that many have kind of let him off the hook for bringing to the community. So I'm going to address some of the teachings that he has brought to the community, and I'm going to prove that he's led people into Catholicism and other type of idolatry. But I'm going to share that, and I'm going to really make sure that you guys in the process have a better understanding with the Bantu language, right? Because I know you guys are hearing people say salama, and I started noticing that a year ago, and not saying that I would disrespect anyone for saying salama. For me, it's like, I know what you mean. I know you're using it as a salutation. Well, a lot of that comes from a particular group that has been teaching that the Bantu language, is the original language before the Hebrew, right? And so they began to do a number of teachings on that, right? They've been pushing the name Nzambi. They've been pushing the name uh, uh, Muwanda for the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to really go into so much over the week. And I'm going to address that and some other things that he has brought introduced to the people and kind of led people astray and not truly understanding what this stuff means. I'm going to address some other stuff, but I just want to kind of paint the narrative of what's going on. And so what you see on the screen, right? This is a lesson, an old lesson. So forgive me if I you know kind of have to kind of remember some of the thoughts that I had when I put this together. But we're going to go through this, and I want to touch on that. We can't go through the whole thing, but we're going to touch on a few things that's going to tie into what I'm going to cover over the weekend. Let's see here. Sadiq Ben Israel, can we do a playbook on critical, what is that? Race theory, the critical race theory or whatever. Yeah, we're going to do something on that. Absolutely. Actually, I'll schedule something next week to do something on that. All right. So, family. So, with that whole situation, with the whole Issachar, he chose to go down a path that completely caught a number of people by surprise. He decided that he wanted to stir up the pot with the pew discussion, and very deceptively how he even approached that. Right. So, but nevertheless, I'm going to address a lot in the video, further showing the delusions about that, and exposing some of the things that he's been teaching. And family, I want to say this: we have to be careful about not allowing our anger cause us to make poor decision. Right? The scripture tells us that it's okay to be angry, but we are not to sin. Be angry, sin not. Right? You could be angry. Angry is something that comes with the territory. It's a natural uh, emotion, that feelings that uh, comes from certain things that may be a pet peeve of ours. The Messiah was angry, and when he beat the money changers because they were taking what's supposed to be a house of prayer, the house of the Most High, and so they began to uh, bring the marketplace inside the temple, and they were primarily doing a lot of that stuff over in the side of the temple that is called the court of the Gentiles. And so, so yeah, uh, that's natural. We all can be angry and have some things that can kind of trigger that anger, but it's how we do and how we carry out that anger that can determine whether or not we're in sin. Let's see here, Sister Lynn. So Hebrew is not the very first language spoken by the Israelites. It's absolutely it is, but unfortunately, and to the point that I was going to make is many of our brothers and sisters, because right, trying to completely, and the anger. This is where I'm going at with Christianity. And don't get me wrong, I have my disappointments, my angers at the doctrine, and you even say to yourself, man, I can't believe I taught some of these things. Like for me, I had to repent to the people for teaching them not to honor the Shabbat and so forth, and so I had to do some repenting for the people, repenting to the Most High, and not really teaching identity, even though I knew that I am an Israelite and so forth, based upon my family tradition and my heritage. And uh, for those that may follow Issachar, and if there's any of you guys that's in the timeline or in the chat, uh, I am a relative of Pastor James Wesley Carr, right? Who's one of the pillars of First African Baptist Church, Savannah, Georgia. And so, contrary to what many may try to say, their arguments, I debunked all of them. And, anyway, not getting into all of that, but nevertheless, uh, we have to be careful by not allowing ourselves to be so upset that we don't think clearly. We lose discernment. The Messiah said that there were going to be uh, other people coming to pose as if they are the Messiah. They're going to be, excuse me, I'm hitting my thing here. They're going to be those that are going to be false prophets. They're going to perform signs. They're going to perform wonders. They're going to lead so many people astray. And so what's been happening is, like Issachar and a few others, they have come up with bywords, right? They made the term Christian Israelite into a byword to insult their own brothers and sisters. It's something that just really sad when you hear that, it's like, wow, we already as a people had to deal with all kinds of bywords, as Deuteronomy 28 prophesies. It tells us that we're going to be the butt end of the joke. They're going to make songs about us. They're going to, like when we see in the form of the minstrels and all that. When you look at what was happening in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and for you guys that haven't seen it, if you haven't seen The Road to Savannah, I'm getting around, finish up part 2, so that way you could start seeing what led up and how I began to key things that helped me see the pews in a certain way to be able to transliterate a few of them, because I did transliterate a few of the pews, and I discovered additional languages that no one's talked about. For example, the incivity language, right? So I'll be dropping that part 2. I want to drop some sources that tells us, that proves that we are the people of the book here in the United States. I'm going to drop some maps and a number of things I'm going to drop in part 2. All right. So, but nevertheless, back to my thought here, we have to be careful not allowing our aggression, allow our anger to cause us to lose focus, to not discern against predators, right? Uh, Predators, they don't care. They're opportunists. When you understand what happened, I remember with the hurricane, the flooding down in Louisiana, down in New Orleans. Remember how FEMA was issuing $5,000 credit cards, debit cards for the people down there. But guess what? You had a lot of people that weren't from there that got arrested, right? Because they tried to con the system to get free credit cards, to get $5,000 of credit. So you always have opportunists that look for ways to take advantage of the people for their own personal gain, right? So here's one of the ones that pushed that narrative of Christian Israelite to try to slander, their own brothers and sisters, to be viewed in a certain light to the community. Now, I don't call myself a Christian Israelite. Initially, when I came out of the made that transition with our ministry from Christianity, we were actually non-denominational as far as our ministry. When we made that transition from Christianity to honoring the Shabbat, right? I had to be careful not allowing my anger to get the best of me. So again, so there are a lot of people that are out here that will prey on and push agendas just on the backs of disrespecting their own brothers and sisters. And I, for one, has been one of those that have been talked about and labeled. So I want to make this clear. And this is not me trying to slander anyone, because I don't slander anyone. This is not me trying to throw jabs at anyone. I'm a direct person. So I'm responding. I'm going to respond by addressing some things that he put out there about me, disrespecting me for no reason, right? So I'm going to deal with that. So, but where I'm going at with that, back to the point about using that term Christian Israelite, when I first made that transition, I was still calling myself a Christian Israelite. But, as I started, kind of like rebooting, starting over, I began to pivot away from that. Did I knock others for continuously using that term? No, because I understand what it means. I understand their intentions behind it. But when you understand that, the term Christian Christian, when you understand that term Christian, really, it actually means slave, right? Slave of the Messiah. But it wasn't a term that was used as a complimentary term, right? But nevertheless, I'm not knocking anyone that use it, but I just don't go that route. All right. So let's see here. Kanita Lattimore, I'm just going to be real with you. You have to go back over and watch the video, watch part 1 of the video that I just uploaded. I don't see Issachar as a predator. understand exactly what the issue is, but I don't see him as a predator. Well, just to make go back and watch the video. Again, he made a video about me and others, very disrespectful, tasteless video, saying that we are leading our people back into captivity. He said some other things, even, went even further beyond that, made another video, said that I'm a broken person. Whenever I have issues, I run and chase behind women and hide behind women, all kinds of stuff that he said about me. So for me, I'm just going to call it what it is. And I'm not going to bite my tongue when it comes to it. You know, for what I see of him, and the things that he's done, it's like, to me, it's an opportunist, because there was no need for him to disrespect me and others like that. And then in the same breath, doing a video 8 months ago, uh, having the same issue with someone calling him out. I actually didn't even mention his name, but said, man, why can't we handle things offline? But then the very thing he was saying about 8 months ago, actually not even 8 months ago, it was sooner than that. He did not listen to his own words, and began to do the very thing that he said was a pet peeve of his that he didn't like. So, nevertheless, uh, only thing I can say, just watch the video that I did this past weekend. I uploaded, watch it, and just get the details. I have it right inside there, and I explain exactly what he had done. He decided to connect with the UA community, and been using the UA community so-called talking points and all of that to try to attack me with, literally. So for me, I'm not giving a pass to him. I'm not trying to sway you guys one way or another. If you choose to follow him, so be it. But I'm going to put the truth out there. I'm going to show exactly what he's done. I'm going to show that even with the things that he had done, even with the teaching of the Bantu language, I'm going to show you some of the deceptions in it. And I'm just going to let it fall, let it fall wherever it fall. I'm going to show some other things, deceptive teachings. But again, I encourage you to go watch the video, of what he did. He attacked me and others for no reason. And even if he felt like he had a reason to, he could have reached out to me offline. But nevertheless, I want to let me get some of this tea here. I want to do a touch on this teaching here. It's called Deception of the English Language. Right? Let me bring this up here. And I did this a while back, just showing some of the deceptions that's among our community, right? Just some of the things that simple words that we have been drawn into. I agree with you. I see here Yahuwah's daughter of Zion. Israel have enough enemies. Come together, Israel. Emotions going to get people killed. One. Truth be told, Yahuwah's daughter, I encourage you to watch the first video. We all have our emotions. Period. The Messiah was in the used. I mean, had emotions. Um, the emotions it's not going to get people killed. The emotion is people behaviors, contradictory behaviors that can get someone killed. And actually, literally, I taught the proper application of what Christ was teaching. The Messiah taught about Matthew 5, stating about killing someone's character. So Issachar made every attempt to kill my character, to kill my reputation. So I have every right. So when we say that come together, I'm going to go off of what the Messiah said. I'm not trying, I'm trying to, uh, you know, teach and educate the people correctly. But truth be told, it's going to be the Messiah that's going to unify Israel, because so many people now have agendas. So many people are pushing their own thing, and really sometimes can get so self-consumed in those things. So far as uh, us coming together, I've always had my doors open to talk to anyone. People have reached out to me offline, with whatever things that they disagree with me or whatever, and we did whatever, handled it offline. So I'll say this again, you know, uh, the Messiah, that's going to take the Messiah's doing, and he said in Matthew chapter 24, that after the great tribulation, he said, we'll start seeing signs from heaven of his return. And then he is going to dispatch the angels to the four corners, the four winds. So it's going to be the Messiah that's going to bring us together. And unfortunately, a lot of people are really not doing their due diligence when it comes to really preparing for that time. But nevertheless, I'm not going to keep harping on that, but I'm going to drop a video part 2 over the weekend to continue to address some of the things that he put out there. So I'm going to address it. Just like the Messiah got addressed publicly from a number of people, and he addressed it publicly. This is not saying I hate anyone, but I am going to address what needs to be addressed publicly. And I'm not going to give him a pass of disrespecting me and trying to taint my reputation and try to taint those writings on the pews and other things. It's just not going to happen. I'm doing exactly how the Messiah would handle things. He did it publicly, so I'm going to do it publicly. A response. Queen Love, no, that's not correct. Go back and watch video number 1. He did a video titled Leading Us Back into Captivity. His concern wasn't just about the pews. Anytime you do a video and you say that people are leading our people back into captivity and go beyond that, it was more than just the pews. And for him to bring the pews up 7 months, 8 months after the height of discussion, he could have easily come to me offline. So it wasn't about the pews. It was about the Reclaiming of the Throne video that dropped about a month and a half ago. And he decided to do videos to go at Benaiah Israel, to go at Hebrew Nation, Moray Brown, and myself. He also said we don't need people to validate us in terms of me doing the playbooks about the Jewish community, right? He even questioned that and misrepresented my playbooks, right? And so he decided to contradict himself on that. Use the very people that he said we don't need to validate us, and decided that he was going to use their resources to try to debunk Benaiah, also go further to try to debunk my work that I did on the pews. So I'm going to say this again, it's more than just that. And if you go back and watch that video, leading our people back to captivity, and you put yourself in our position, just that right there, before you even got to the pews, just even saying that we are leading our people back to captivity, that alone is an insult. That's what I'm focusing on. I don't even care about getting to the discussion with the pews, but starting right there, that was wrong. That was wrong, and I stand clear on that. And exactly, that's right, Jay Highstyle. He did far more than that, and I'm just keeping it simple. He did far more than that, right? So he did far more than that. He said far more about me. So go back in there, and I'll encourage you to look at the videos. But let me go ahead and get into this, family, because I don't want to get so consumed with that. Let tomorrow handle tomorrow, but let's deal with today. And this is a lesson that I did years ago. And actually, believe it or not, this lesson is one of the lessons that got me banned on Facebook for a while. They began to, remove my videos from Facebook. For years, I couldn't even do videos lives on Facebook without getting blocked. So this lesson right here is called The Deception of the English Language. Then there is silence. So let's delve into this here, family. Don't want to harp on other things. We got that out the way. But let's talk about this, the deception of the English language. Then there was silence, right? Caught between two opinions. How much longer? Let's go to this scripture. This is where I got the title from. So you can tell this is old, right? An old presentation, because you can look at my graphics and you can see that my PowerPoints is, you can see how they developed over the years. And I can tell you this presentation is like 5 years old, because I can tell by the graphics here. But nevertheless, it says, and it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? Right? Verse 18. And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, and that ye have forsaken the commandments of Yahweh, and thou hast followed Baalim. Right? Verse 19. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel, come unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves, in other words, Asherah 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. Verse 21. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long? How long? Pasak Yam, ye between two Shaddai opinions. Sa'ap Yam, if Yahweh be Elohim, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. See, this is where I got the thought from when I did this lesson. Because we see even today that so many of our people are caught between two opinions. You know, the delusion, the deception is real. Even right now, so many people are caught between two opinions. We have to be real about it. You know, and many people, when you're caught between two opinions, many start become comfortable or try to find safety in the gray area, right? That lukewarm area, right? Remember, the Messiah said, "Let your yea be yea, your nay be nay." Revelations tell us, "Be either hot or cold, but lukewarm, he what? Spew you out." That's a nasty taste that comes with something that you expect to be hot and it's lukewarm, or something you expect to be cold and it's lukewarm. You know, for me, I do not like lukewarm oatmeal. I do not like lukewarm grits. My grits have to be hot, you know, like how my grandmother will hook it up. So again, when you understand this right here, in family, unfortunately, this is what happens. This is what comes with the territory. I'm gonna go back here, right? It says, and it came to pass when Elijah, right, when Ahab saw Elijah, right, he called him a troublemaker. He said, Art thou he that troubleth Israel? See, we see the playbook right here. Whenever someone comes on the scene, and this is the thing that comes with your reputation. If you're the type of person that really stand for righteousness, stand for holiness, guess what? When people see you come on the scene, they should change their behavior. They should be nervous when you come on the scene, because they know when you come on the scene, some things are going to change. You know, when I go around certain people, they know when I come on the scene, you know, they have to respect me. When I go to certain areas to do outreach and all, if they smoking and all that stuff on the corner, when I get out there, they put all those things up. If they're drinking, guess what? They put the bottle caps on and everything. And then they start trying to what? Fix themselves up and try to talk to me in a very respectful way, because they know that I am a pastor. And even before I began pastoring, they knew that I was a elder. They knew when I was out there as a young minister. Matter of fact, before I even got into ministry, I would go out there. I was doing all kinds of ministries, doing toll booth ministries, just driving through toll booths and giving the toll booth workers copies of messages, just so that way they can have some way to be ministered to. But when people see you and know your reputation, right? Ahab suddenly, out of nowhere, called Elijah a troublemaker. He said he's the one that's troubling Israel. And he's coming to what? Bring correction. But he labeled him as the one that's coming to bring trouble into Israel. Verse 18, he made it clear. The prophet said, I have not troubled Israel, but thou. This is not a peaceful exchange, right? This is a heated discussion right here. He said, I have not troubled Israel. In other words, Elijah said, I'm not the problem, but you are the problem. Your household is the problem. If that in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Most High and have allowed or has followed Baalim. So what Ahab began to do, just through his wife alone, Jezebel. Her name means married to Baal. That's what Jezebel means. Married to Baal. He married someone, king of Israel. out of the bloodline of David, he married someone that served other gods, other idols, and so forth. So here, what he began to do, he began to build temples and altars and everything in honor of her and her gods. He began to mesh and lead the people to these beliefs. They were doing both at the same time, meshing these things together. So he made it clear. He said, gather all the prophets of Baal, right? And all the prophets of the groves. So you see here was 450 of prophets that serve Baal, 400, which it says here, which eat at Jezebel's table, prophets. So again, that's Asherah, or the queen of heaven. So it says, so Ahab sent all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And so Elijah had to charge the people. He said, look, if you're going to serve the Most High, give him your 100%. If you're going to serve Baalim, give him his 100%. But you cannot do both. That's what he's saying here. You cannot do both, family. You have to choose who you're going to serve. Today, the way things are going is that there's so many different things that's causing people to be caught into between two opinions. Many are burning sage. Many people are getting into crystals, which is nothing more than a glorified term of saying chakras. Many people are getting into all kinds of mysticisms, and now it's causing them to be caught between two opinions because many are turned upside down. They can't tell what's right and what's wrong. Like it was prophesied in the book of Isaiah. Many people are getting into Hinduism and thinking that it's okay. Many are actually using the Book of Mormons as a point of reference. Using the very things that would be off limits, right, in terms of doctrine. Now they're incorporating these things into kind of meshing it with the Most High's word. That's right. Many are getting into worshiping our ancestors, ancestral worship. It's so many different things that are out here that is causing people to be caught between two opinions. We now have, look at what the homosexual community, look at what's happening with the homosexual community. You have people caught between two opinions, even with that marriage. Because of the deception, as many are teaching about marriage, so many of our brothers and sisters have come out of the church, right? Come out of the frying pan and jump right into the fire of so many delusions. Because now you have brothers and sisters saying that, hey, we don't have to, go before the courts. We don't have to have the government in our business. And what are they doing? Writing agreements with women, sleeping with them, and then breaking up with them, right? Because there's nothing to keep them to bind that agreement. Not realizing that even the Jewish community, right? They register with the local government. They follow the law, right? But then the rabbi is the one that registers that marriage in Israel. They still go through all of that, the ketubah and all of that, writing that out, the agreement and all that. Guess what? Many of our brothers and sisters are doing that portion of it, but not registering their marriage to the local government as required. And so many of them are using that as a means to basically get what they want, seduce the women, and then break up with them. DMX wife or girlfriend had to learn the hard way, right? Because he had $1 million that was left of his estate. And so she tried to file for common law wife or commonwealth common law be considered to be his wife by common law marriage. In other words, because she lived with him for a specified amount of time, that she would be considered to be his legal wife. Like some states, I remember when I was in Mississippi, I'm not sure if they're still that way. We got the briefing that, hey, if you with a woman for 3 straight days, right, you can be, she can file for common law, call you her common law husband, right? So it's just a lot of rules that many people don't know about. So again, those are some of the examples of how many people are approaching marriage that are causing people to be caught between two opinions. So there's so many different things that are out here that is causing people to be caught up between two opinions. And that's right, Sister Carol, out in Texas. There are people out there that don't realize it, because when I went to tech school in Texas, San Antonio, that was the briefing we got there as well. Let's see here, Zena Motley. I have a young child, and I'm noticing that the gay community is confusing the children with their opinions. Well, this is why we have to be careful, even with the cartoons that they're watching. The cartoons is filled with the I just call it the alphabet, right? Because they have so many different letters that they're adding to it, you know. So let's see here. Uh, so we have to be careful with those things, right? We have a lot of people that are just delving into stuff that they should not be diving into, right? We have to be careful, and the Most High made it clear that He does not share uh, space. He do not like roommates. All right. But yeah, with cartoons, with toys, they really pushing that agenda. They made it clear in their agenda that they're trying to uh, reach the kids while they're really young to push their agenda. This agenda been going full force since the Bush administration, Bush senior, when they started really pushing this agenda. When Clinton came into play, it began to germinate. When Bush Jr. came in, same thing. And then with Obama, it really, we have to be real. He helped spearhead it as well. So that agenda has been here, but it's been slowly but surely. The roots have been digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So this is why we have to be careful. We have to be very, very careful. So this right here, the prophet was calling the king and his wife out for. They were leading the people into astray into idol worshiping, to the point that they were confused. They were caught between two opinions. So basically, they were dealing with confusion here. All right. So he said, and how long? He said, how long halt ye between two opinions? So we already see here, Shania, the uh, definition of it, double, again, another. So the actual Hebrew word in this verse is warp, right? And this is where we see shatai, right? Warp, right? And we see it up here, right? Warp, right? So the etymology definition of warp means this: to bend, twist, distort, to throw away, hit with a missile. So many people are caught between two opinions from a perspective of bending and twisting the Most High's words to the point that they're trying to justify not letting things go. Old Pastor Robinson, got to give him a call. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he used this as a great analogy when he dealt with the wide gate and the narrow, right? The straight gate. He said the great analogy was the wide gate is much cleaner than the straight gate, right? Because the wide gate, you don't have to give up anything. That straight gate, that narrow gate, right? You have to give up stuff. You have to let stuff go. You can't squeeze everything through it. So he said that road, that path is junky. It's littered with garbage. Why? Because people know they cannot take you through that gate. They cannot take you through that needle. But that wide gate, you don't have to give up anything. That wide gate, that wide road, that wide path, you don't have to give up anything. So here we see that the people, starting with the king, they were bending, twisting, and distorting the things of the Most High. And it was really becoming confusing to the people, to the point that the Most High had to send his prophet and say, you know what are you going to do? Either you guys are going to be sold out or you're not going to be sold out. And the Most High is still saying the same thing to his people, right? So how long will you continue to bend and twist the truth? That's what he's saying in this text. How long will you continue to bend and twist the truth, right? So this is where we start dealing with the holidays versus the holy days, right? And this is like I said, this is an old lesson. You could tell here, even by my graphics here, but here, holiday, the etymology dictionary definition of holiday. As you see here, holy day, consecrated day, religious anniversary, Sabbath, right? You see holy plus day, right? And it tells you to see day. But it goes on to say day of exemption from labor and recreation, right? But notice at the bottom there, you see vacation. And this is part of the problem when it comes to honoring the Shabbat or honoring the things of the Most High. Is because many people think that when you honoring the Shabbat, that it's almost like a vacation, that you are going on a vacation like work. You leave and work and you don't have to deal with work until you get back, right? Think that the Shabbat is a vacation. No, guess what? The Shabbat is designated for corporate worship for the Most High, right? So holiday is the combination of holy plus day. So what does it mean to be holy? Glad you guys asked. Here, the etymology of the word says holy, consecrated, sacred, godly, ecclesiastical. You see holy again, right? So in ancient Hebrew, holy, quadash, it means clean, consecrate, dedicate, proclaim, purify, sanctify, keep, right? Keep, right? The Hebrew word shamar, right, means to execute, right? It also means to keep, execute. So the Most High has given us his laws, statutes, and commandments. He's given us instructions to do what? Execute. That's the key. Adam was a cultivator. He was a tiller, right? Abad, but then he was also what? It says he was a keeper, right? He was to dress and keep the garden. In other words, keep, as you see here, he had to what? Execute the things of the Most High to keep it what? Holy. Same thing with honoring the Shabbat. So the etymology dictionary definition of day, and this is the key right here. Notice what it says here, lifetime. See, when we think of day, we think of a day as just 24 hours. See, when we say holy day, right, or holiday, day is what? A lifetime. See, when we start dealing with these delusions, they're trying to make sure that you're permanently ingrained, that you're rooted in these delusions, like celebrating Christmas, celebrating Easter, celebrating all these different days that have nothing to do with the holy days of the Most High. Those are man-made days, but a day, lifetime. So a holy day, in other words, these feast days, as we see that Leviticus 23, the Most High makes it clear that they are forever. They're forever. They're perpetual. It's not a one-time thing. It's not just for Israel. If the strangers that are dwelling among us, guess what? They are supposed to do what? They're supposed to honor the feast days if they're dwelling among us, right? This if they want to be what? Considered a citizen of Israel. See, there wasn't a law for this, the Israelites, and then laws over here for, the Gentiles or those the nations that are not blood descendants. They had uniformity. But if they wanted to be considered citizens, there were certain things they had to do. And Isaiah makes it clear. They had to what? Honor the Shabbat. They had to honor the things that pleases the Most High. All right. So this is what we have to really understand. So just like you see here, the Most High's holy days is meant to be forever, perpetual. Just like like Hasatan want to mimic everything of the Most High, his not holy days, I don't call it holy days, his holidays, he wants it to be perpetual as well. Right? They want it to be perpetual as well. They want you to focus on these things and not the things of the Most High. This is why you have, instead of saying Passover, they calling it the Holy Communion. All the things that the Most High set aside to be holy. The Passover is not Holy Communion. The Holy Communion, the Eucharist, was created. The Messiah, when he said to his disciples, right, do this in remembrance of me, what he's actually saying is whenever you honor the Passover, from now on, you honor the Passover in remembrance of what he's getting ready to do when he was crucified, when he was lynched. That's what it actually means. So instead of when they gather this lamb, they're remembering that this lamb represents him. When they're drinking this wine, that wine represents him. When they eating that bread represents him. That's the proper understanding of it, right? But many within the church would tell you differently. They were not celebrating the Eucharist. They were not celebrating Holy Communion. They were not doing this every month. It was once a year. I believe this is why many take it for granted, because every month you're doing something. You have to doing a Holy Communion every month. Growing up in the Baptist church, we did it every first Sunday. Every first Sunday was Holy Communion. Matter of fact, when I was in Kojic, every first Sunday was Holy Communion. It's nothing more than the Eucharist. Nothing more than the Eucharist. I may even do a lesson on that. All right. But nevertheless, right? So we see what day means. Okay. So holy plus day, it means lifetime. This is where you get the word holiday. The enemy is not playing. They want that thing to be what? Their days to be permanent. So holiday is related to the word vacation. Here it is. This is why many people, unfortunately, they view the Shabbat as a vacation, because they think when their day is off, it frees them from obligation. They look at it as it is a day off. Unfortunately, a lot of that is because of what happens in the church. The church, right? Many of us was raised in the church, and so we honored Sunday, but we looked at Saturday as a vacation day, a day of rest. But many people forget that, guess what? You on the clock no matter what. You still have a dedication to the Most High. When you go on vacation, right? Even if you're at your job, you still have to uphold yourself a certain way, or you can bring embarrassment back to you, right? So nevertheless, and straight out of Judah, we're going to deal with the Kikongo language. I'm going to deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with it over the weekend, but let's keep the discussion here, because I can prove to you that there's no writings, right? There's no writings. If we're going to say the Kikongo language is older than Hebrew, then there should be writings. There should be writings of the scriptures in that language, right? There's not a single scripture that's written in that language. So not trying to get into all of that today. Let's just kind of focus on this here tonight, and we'll deal with that when we get to it over the weekend. So I'm going to address all of that. Okay. So, because I see here it says, I'm saying is that the oldest language which our Hebrew comes from is Kikongo language. No, it does not come from the Kikongo language. And that's unfortunately what many are teaching, to what? Take people from Hebrew, and now they're calling on the Most High's name as if his name is in zombie. But nevertheless, we'll deal with that another time. But I appreciate it, my brother. And this is no offense to you or anyone, not trying to offend anyone. But, it's good that we have to discuss these things, right? And we'll talk about it over the weekend. We'll address it, but I appreciate you. All right. So let's see here. Zena Motley, pastor. Let's see here. Does Passover represent when the Israelites put the blood of the lamb on the doorpost? Well, just to give you, I want to say peace and blessing to my sister, Ashonda. Family, want to say peace and blessing. That's my sister doing great things in the kingdom. Appreciate you, sister. So when we look at the Passover, right, the significance about the Passover, we had the blood of the lamb, right, which is parallel to being protected by the blood that was sacrificed by the Messiah. So when you, and I encourage you guys, go back inside my timeline, or should I say the video list there, and you'll see two lessons there. The resurrection, right? What day was it? And I literally go into walking you through recreating the very first Hebrew calendar and showing you exactly when the Passover took place, right? But the Passover, right? The blood, right? That was the sacrifice, right? Every household had to have a lamb to cover it within Israel. So there was 12 people to one house, right? So when you understand what was happening with the disciples, it was the Messiah plus his 12 disciples. The Messiah represented the lamb that covered the house. So if there was a household, let's just say if it was 4 people, but then another house, a house that had 4 people, guess what they would do? They'll join and combine homes just to make sure that there was 12 to a lamb. And if you want to get more information, Josephus, does a great job at explaining the Passover, what our ancestors would do. But yeah, the Passover represents the blood of the lamb that covered the doorpost to protect the Israelites from the judgment that came through all of the territory of the Egyptians. And what's interesting is when you read Numbers chapter 2, you will see that the Most High, that firstborn is set aside, right? That firstborn, because of the Most High covered the firstborn in Egypt. From that point on, the firstborn became what? Holy, right? And so required to do what? Service to the Most High, right? That firstborn of every person, every household within Israel, if you had a firstborn child, you had to dedicate that child to the Most High. But what he did, instead of them doing it, he dedicated to priests, right? So each Levitical priest stood in proxy for each firstborn because of what transpired with the Passover. Benaiah, my cousin, how's it going, Benaiah? Hey, I gotta get with you. I know I've been on geek mode, and you know how we do, but feel free to reach out, cousin. Matter of fact, I'll drop the link inside the the comments if you want to jump in. Let me drop it in there right now before I forget. It's my buddy right here. All right, I'm going to drop it here. If you want to jump in, Benaiah, feel free. Matter of fact, Ashonda and Sister Carol, you know, if you guys want to jump in, feel free. I dropped the link inside the comment section. All right, so that's what the Passover represents. Appreciate you guys. So, nevertheless, again, when we honor the Shabbat, is not a vacation time, right? It does not free us from obligations to the Most High, right? We are supposed to remember that we're still on the clock. We represent the Most High no matter what. We're supposed to use that as a corporate day of worship and rest on that day. But the holiday, guess what? Many people get into that holiday mindset and look at it as if it's a vacation, right? Kind of whatever happens on vacation stays on vacation type thing. All right. So nevertheless, as you see here, to leave, abandon, give out. See, that's why when we start really understanding why it's so hard for many people to honor the Shabbat is because many use Saturday as being a vacation day to abandon whatever they choose to abandon, including what? The things that they would normally do on should be doing for the Most High. They say, hey, we're not going to do anything on Saturdays, but whatever they want to do that's conducive to, let's just say, the things that they choose to do. All right, abandon. That's what comes with the territory of vacation. That spirit of vacation, it makes you want to vacate the things of the Most High. All right. Nevertheless, let me see here. Hey, cuz, how's it going, Benaiah? How you doing tonight?
Hey, peace and blessings, cuz. We're doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great, and decided to do a last minute live. I mean, it's been a while since I done it. I've been consumed to some other projects, but how's everything on your end?
Oh, it was great. You know, most high is funny, man. You know, the more research we do, the more we find ourselves. The more we find ourselves in history.
Well, you know, it's amazing because I've been watching what you've been posting, and it's just so many layers to our history that you know, it's like, you know, you cannot try to, I mean, it's impossible to try to sum it up with one page of information. I mean, it's just so many sources that by the time you get to one source, it leads you to another source. And before you know it, it's like you have a treasure trove of information, you know, and I've been watching what you've been posting on Facebook and also YouTube as well.
Yeah, most high willing. Yeah, hopefully next week. I know next week I might be out of pocket a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I want to start posting some things like you know, just so that people can see what a day in the life of the Brews were back in the day. You know, kind of like when we was talking about, you know, the things like they used to live in ghettos, they used to, you know, dress in hoodies. I don't mind telling you that, now we're going to get into the food. You may be surprised that the Spanish and Portuguese brews were known for having fish fries on Friday.
Well, guess what? Believe it or not, that's what my grandmother would do with our house. We called it fish biscuits and syrup.
There you go.
Every Friday, my grandmother cooked fish, biscuits, and syrup. And she always told us that was just a tradition that was always handed down. I don't do it as much now, but I still, we'll throw some fish out there and get the biscuits and dip it in the syrup. But yeah, that's been a family tradition for since I was a kid, and my grandmother told me that dates back even before then. And little did I know that was a tradition that stems to there.
Yep. And you know, they didn't have a Popeyes chicken back in the day, back in the 1500s. But believe it or not, I mean, that gospel bird was also one of the hallmarks of the Spanish and Portuguese brews as well. So I look forward to kind of dropping some of those references in, on Facebook and some of these other platforms, just so that people can understand, like, no, those are our people, But
yeah,
it is what it is, guys.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, Sister Shonda? How you doing, sis?
I'm doing all right. Praise the Most High. Good to see you, Pastor Kelly. How you been, brother?
I'm doing good, doing good. You know me, I'm always in geek mode one way or another. So
Yeah, I think I've seen you in a little bit. You just been engaged, huh?
yeah, you know how it goes. I'm in geek mode right now. So when I'm in geek mode, my nickname. I don't know if I ever shared with you. My nickname was called the Brain, from Pinky and the Brain.
Oh my goodness.
Because when I was younger, people would say, "Man, you're so focused. You and Tune look like you plotting to take over the world." So
Right.
they called me the Brain. Along with another term that they used to call me, Ghetto Geek.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
So I was called Ghetto Geek, the Brain. So
That is too funny. Blessings to you as well, brother Benea Israel. Always good to see you. I'll be shouting you out and stuff. You had said not too long ago concerning something that was going on. You said this is not my awakening. This is Yah's awakening, and I love that it just stuck with me. So I appreciate you, brother.
Oh, peace and blessings to you and your family, my sister. So,
Thank you. You can't forget about the fam now. Can't forget about it. I got a whole tribe over here.
Hey, go for it. Hey, because you have what, 10 kids, right, Ashonda?
I have 9, but
9, okay.
I mean, practically 10. So hey, go ahead and throw another number in there, right? Why not?
Hey, look, 10, how you doing? 10, redemption.
There you go.
Wow, but, what you been up to?
As a matter of fact, I just got off a live. I was talking about China banning the Bible, that they are on that move right now. We know that they have rewritten the Bible, and we were showing some of the verses from that, especially concerning where Yahusha told the woman that go and sin no more, because anybody without sin cast the first stone. Well, they switched that up, and he told her and said that he is with sin. And if there was a perfect man that can kill her, that they would, but the law, something has to be done anyway. And so he stoned her to death. And I mean, I was very shocked to see that. But we're dealing with the need for us to be salt and light, especially in this day and time, because we know that Yahusha is coming back for his people, but we're still called as Israel to be salt and light unto the nations. So we need to be aware of the sign of the times. We don't need to lose hope, but we need to get on our job of praying and fasting. And y'all know we got the 714 initiative coming up in just a couple of days. So that's what we're getting ready to get into. Going to release the website, and I'm really super excited. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, great. And just thinking about what you just said, and even thinking about what Benea shared, Scripture tells us, even in the prophecy with the situation with the serpent, the seed of the serpent, and the seed that comes from the woman, the term bruise was used, right? And when you really think about a bruise, it said it was going to bruise the heel of the
Right.
seed that comes out of the woman. And so when you think about the heel and think about what the word is supposed to be to us, the word is supposed to be our foundation. In Psalms 119, it tells us that the The word of the Most High is a lamp unto our feet, a light into our path.
That's
And
right.
really, in that text, he's dealing with that entire chapter. He's dealing with the law, statutes, and commandment. Every letter is going to teach you about the law, statute, and commandment. When I teach that chapter, I teach that as I call it the true leadership handbook. But when you think about that word bruise, it's a difference. Like when you have a bruise, you know, you could feel a pain in a certain area, but when you look at it, it looks from on the surface, it looked normal, you know, and that's what the enemy is doing with the word. They're putting subtle changes over, little by little. So by the time you see the fullness of it, things are completely changed. It may sound like it's an upgrade. Let me pull my mic. Somebody said my mic became low. It may sound like it's an upgrade when you're taking those these and thous out of the text, but don't realize those these and thous have a purpose in understanding how that text is written when it's transliterated. So that bruise, those are like subtle changes that are being done. Subtle changes.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, I called you well as far as sister Ashonda. I think I'm gonna start calling your mother Ashonda. First of all,
Funny.
I gotta give you the respect that's due. But as mother Shonda was talking about, as far as like the China and the Bible and the scripture, them changing the word and all this other stuff. It's funny because one of the things I wanted to put out this week, most high willing, is also to show how the Negro Bible, and when the slaves were presented the Bible, they took out some stuff. I mean, they took out parts of Exodus, took out parts of Genesis, and to your point, because Kelly, they took out Leviticus. They took out all the laws, statutes, and commandments. They took out all the some important verses and scriptures about Israel and the redemption. They took out the book of Obadiah, the judgment of Esau. Why would they take that out, right? But to your point, it's like our enemies knew who we were and they knew what to keep from us. When they had those chains on us and they reprogrammed us, they knew exactly how to teach us the Bible, right? And it's funny because we don't sit around and ask the question, like, why do I believe that? Like, why do we believe that, we go to church on Sunday? Why do we believe that the laws and statutes were done away with? And never taking the time to look back through the looking at glass of history to see how, who taught us and where they came from. And most high willing, I just want to show people where stuff like that comes from, because if you see that, then hopefully you'll turn back.
Yeah, that's an important point that you brought up, because when it comes to understanding how Yah feels about his law, it's important to be biblically balanced, because we know in the New Testament it says that the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that the law has been cast away. What it means is that the Ruach is going to give us revelation on how to live that word out, how to live out the commandments of Yah. And we have to be mindful of that. But they took that out because they wanted to pervert the truth of Yah's word to his people, so that we would be in the place of perpetual curse, so that we would despise his law rather than looking at his law as a means of walking in right relationship with him. And I think that that's so critical, what you talked about with the slave Bible. Even today, when we deal with, especially concerning like the dietary laws, we see that one of the biggest issues with our people is this unwillingness to let go of things like pork. But then when we look at what's happened to us nutritionally wise in our health, we have the worst health out of so many nations because we're eating the worst foods. And so we have to think about, when Yah did the things he did it for our protection. When he wrote what he wrote it for our protection. And he also wrote it so that we would understand that he has a standard, just like any other nation has a standard. Any other ruler has a standard, and we'll abide by that rulership. But when it comes to Yah and his rulership, then we can make excuses. And that is not going to be permissible to the Most High.
Well, what's interesting too, and I enjoy this discussion. I like having discussions like this, even when we look at the subtle changes, right? In Genesis chapter 10, right? And I taught Genesis chapter 10 for literally almost 4 years straight, every Shabbat, teaching the same lesson over and over again, to the point where as though our assembly had it memorized. right? Heritage, right, is land, family, and tongues that come together to form a nation. And the key is one of the pillars that constitutes a nation to being recognized as a nation is language. And just to your point of these subtle changes, think about when we start looking at Hebrew, right? Actually, technically, I refer to it as the Israeli language, right? Not trying to disrespect anyone. But the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabets is the Aleph. In Israeli language, they pronounce it Aleph, but that letter is silent, right? You're never pronouncing that letter. What you are actually pronouncing is the marks that man put on that letter, right? They call it the Nakud, right? And or in ancient Hebrew, Naquad, which means branded. So when you say some of those words that have that Aleph there, you're actually pronouncing the marks of man just with the letters themselves. And the Messiah even spoke against it when he said, not one jot or tittle. What he's telling his disciples, don't even share what I want to say, cut the hairs of each letter. Don't even modify the letters, because you start modifying one letter, before you know it, you changing words, you changing ultimately you're changing the text itself. You get to change what redemption is, because by you changing these words, you can make subtle changes. And like you, to your point, you have so many different Bibles out here. You got a Kanye West Bible, you got a gay and lesbian Bible. You have so many different translations out here that now, like I did a lesson when I was like 6-7 years ago, maybe longer than that, and I called it the supermarket church, to where as though you have a church for anything that you don't want to let go. If you say you want to go to church once a month, guess what? There's a church that only opens up for once a month. If you say you want to go to a church that they drinking and smoking and all kinds of, there's a church out there. I call it the supermarket church. So that's the day and time we live in right now. That even though we're outside of the church, but even among this awakening, you have assemblies that are out there that are literally taking on those same behaviors. There's assemblies that's there that for whatever strongholds you don't want to let go, they're allowing that stronghold to continue on in that place of worship.
Well, what I find, among our people, and this is one of the things that I speak to a lot, especially when it concerns what we're doing, the 714 movement. And thank you, 78, that I saw your comment. I appreciate that. What's happened with our people is that we want to hold on to sin because we don't want to deal with the inner man. We don't want to, I look at it like, in a way, sometimes it seems to me like we've traded one form of religion for another. Okay. Because we're not dealing with the issues of the heart. A lot of Israel is using certain terminology, right? Khan and Kwam Yasharal and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that you can know all the Hebrew in the world, but if your inner man is not right with Yah, you can still bust hell wide open. And he wants a people that are humble. He wants a people that will allow him to do the necessary supernatural work in them that only he can do. So we have to strive toward the mark of the high calling. And how we do that is to humble ourselves as a people, get back to him, get back to his heart, so that we can fulfill his mandates, so that we can fulfill his commandments. And so I think that's really the issue that I'm seeing that needs to be addressed among our people. And that's really what the Most High has put as a mandate on my life, is that we deal with getting our houses in order. And so that's key. And I hope that I'm not speaking out of turn on that issue, but I just feel it's important for us to understand that Yah wants our houses to be in order so that he can really heal us as a nation from everything that has been taken away from us, that it may be restored in right order.
Oh, sis, you don't have to apologize. You know how we do here. And one of the scriptures that many take out of context is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9, right? That the Most High is going to give us a pure language. No, what it means is he's going to clean up the language, but it starts with cleaning up the heart. If our heart is not clean, he could give us a new language or clean up the language. but we can still have what? Those same things that have drove us away from the Most High. So to clean up the pure language, we have to start with what? The inner man, like you pointed out. That's why the scripture says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. So a man thinketh, so is he. So you hit it right on the nail, sis. You hit it right on the nail. No need to apologize whatsoever, but you hitting it right on the nail. Benay, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, it just I want to say last Sunday, we had we was on a radio spot, and we was just talking about this a little bit. I mean, kind of sort of about this very same subject. And one of the things I said back then, which is kind of came to mind now when Mother Shonda was talking, and that is self-reflection. Like, in this awakening, once all this information comes out, it's almost like if you can think of a fisherman, right? And he's throwing a line out, and once you're hooked, and you realize that, hey, we're Israel and all this stuff. For me, in my journey, and I was hoping that this is also the case for others, and that is for me, I started a journey of self-reflection. Because once I saw how all of our forefathers went through all this stuff, I mean, it's bad, family. I mean, you don't even know the half of this stuff. I mean, we got some books that talk about some just atrocious stuff that our forefathers went through. And when I saw that, and I was asking Most High, I was like, man, why do we go through all this stuff, Most High? It's like nobody on this planet has even come close to the atrocities that we've been through. And and then I saw it in the scriptures. I saw how we didn't uphold our part of the bargain and all this other stuff. And so I wanted to check my own house to see, all right, so let me make sure let me check to see what I need to do, right? Let me make sure my inner man is halfway clean, and I can start the journey to getting clean, because it's a process. It's not one of those things where you just snap your fingers and you're clean, right? So so that's just the thing that came to mind. It's just self-reflection. Once you realize who you are, you gotta check inside, right, and get my whole thing was I know when I first came into the Israelite community, just the knowledge of it, I was heavy into the law, heavy into the law, and not really kind of grasping the spiritual aspect of it, not really understanding the interconnection that I needed to have. And but praise be to the Most High. I'm working on that. Praise be to the Most High. That's one of the things that's being fulfilled in me.
Well, brother, I don't think you lacking in humility at all. To be honest, I'm telling you, I really appreciate that you said what you just said, because a lot of people don't realize, like Paul, when he started his ministry, remember he was very he was persecuting the true believers, and he had an arrogance about him. But at the end of his ministry is when he said, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from the body of this death." He came to a place of greater humility towards the end of his ministry than he had at the beginning. And I think that as Yah works into our hearts, that's what we do. We come into a place of greater humility so that we're more usable for his service. And that's really, I think, what he's going to be doing for all of Israel collectively it's not about humiliating us. We've been humiliated, okay? But it's about helping us to understand that he's still the Most High. He's still on his throne. And he is the one that's going to deliver us. He's the one that's going to restore us. He's the one that's going to get us all in alignment. Like somebody said in the comment section, he's going to restore pure language unto us. So as we are seeking to worship him and to walk in his ways, we're ever so mindful that it's our humility in him, getting low, where he says that he exalts the humble, but he humbles the proud. When we remind ourselves that we must be humble before him, that's when he will exalt us. So that's the key. That's the key to exaltation, is humility in him. And if I may address this real quick, Pastor Kelly, I don't want to be taking over your live, but
go ahead, go for it. You don't have to. You know how we do. You don't. Kind of like one of those things. Like, and don't laugh when I say this, right? I'm one of those people that if my car junky, guess what? I'm not apologizing. You have that one person. The moment you get in their car, they start apologizing. Hey, forgive me, my car junky. No, if my car junky, you're just gonna have to deal with it. I'm not apologizing for it. So. You don't have to apologize. You know how we do.
That's right. Like, you still want to ride though? You still
exactly.
I see some things being said in the chat about my live. Yes, my live was banned from tonight. I just checked it.
What happened?
I went and I did a little research. It was a part that I played for a guy named Kid Boo or something like that, and he was talking about being I'll just spell it so it'll mess you up, CLONED, and playing that part even though I didn't have the volume on it. They banned it out of all the countries in the United States. No, sorry, not in the United States, in the world. I say all the countries, US. I'm tired, y'all. All over the world, my video was banned off of that one part. However, praise Yah, I'm going to cut that part out. Just take that clip out, and then hopefully the video will be restored. So, but yeah, I mean, that's crazy, but that's what we have to deal with when we come on these platforms. That's what we got to deal with.
Wow. I'm not even surprised because I done had so many videos banned, deleted, removed, and so. But that lets you know you're doing and saying something correct.
Praise the Most High.
Because anything else you want to share? Because a matter of fact, speaking of that, I know we were talking about appreciating the things of our ancestors, and I know I'm going to get into it too over the weekend with the video I'm going to drop. But did you want to just give the people a little bit more information that you and I may know, but just a little tad bit more about why we're adamant about not disregarding the First African Baptist Church down in Savannah, Georgia?
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you just kind of step back and just look at it, like the very first church, the very first Baptist church, the very first church, of course, and the very first Baptist church in the U.S. said that they're Israelites. That to me, like that's newsworthy right there. Like, you mean the very first time that they got together on Sunday, they was calling themselves Israel? Like, to me, that's major, because I had that epiphany not too long ago. But Cheech, I guess to answer your question, because we've talked about this before, about how the leaders of that church had the foresight. I was almost like, what I tell people is like, it was almost prophetic that the Reverend E.K. Love D.D., he was a reverend or a pastor at the First African Baptist Church, but he had the foresight to write down the history of the church. And and the reason why I say it's prophetic is because a lot of this redefining of history that's trying to come about, where people are trying to put this new narrative on the church in Savannah, all those questions are answered in his book that was written over 100 years ago now.
Was it 1888?
Yeah, 18 something. But it was written, long before any of us was around. He wrote this book. In the book, if you take a look at it, like all these counter narratives that people are trying to dig up about the church, he addressed it. And people kind of give us kudos, like, oh man, you guys are dropping all kinds of knowledge. It's like, dude, we're just reading the book. We're just retelling what he said. He said that Islam or Muhammad was pagan and heathenistic. He said that. He said that about.
Say that again, cuz. Matter of fact, can I do my little sound effect here? I haven't done it in a while. let me give a 3-piece, because let me put it up here. Let me toss out the foolishness. There we go. It's been a while since I did that. Can you say that again to the people? Because all this stuff that many are trying to bring up about Arabic and Quran passages being on the piece. Can you just say that again for the people in the back?
Yeah. So because I try to remind people that people try to make this like a Benaiah thing or a Pastor Kelly thing. Like the people at the church said this. Like the reverends, the deacons said this at the church. They said that Mohammedanism was pagan and heathenistic, and he said that for Catholicism as well.
I got to do one more 3-piece up in here. What do you think, Shauna? Can I give it another 3-piece?
You better do it now. We wait.
Let me give it another 3-piece.
Yeah, and then I mean, and then like this, the whole narrative is such a basic, fundamental ABC comment point, right? And that is, when people try to throw in this other narrative and they say things like, oh yeah, it's Arabic. The letters in Arabic connect. Like that's just ABC. Like when you go to when do you learn about writing? Is that in kindergarten?
Yeah.
Or is that preschool? My kids are a little bit older, but I assume that we learn in kindergarten or preschool how to write, right? And so in Arabic, like when they learn how to in preschool or kindergarten or whatever, their system is out there. When they learn to connect their letters. They learned to connect their letters a long time ago, and it's not just modern day; it's like ancient Arabic. They learned to connect their letters, and so what's obvious is that when you look at the pews and you look at the writings on the pews, the letters aren't connected. So just ABC 1 2 3, dude, that's not Arabic. You don't need a PhD, some sort of doctorate or whatever to break that down. It doesn't connect. And so to me, like that's just so obvious. It's not even worth arguing with anybody over that.
Exactly. You hit it right on the nail. I mean, even with the basics of Arabic, there's no print form of Arabic. It's always cursive.
Always.
Always cursive. No matter how many would try to come up with different arguments and different narratives. Number one, the voices of our ancestors in their own writings makes it clear they speak against Islam. They speak against Roman Catholicism. They speak against Freemasonry, all inside this book, and they were having Hebrew classes.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and they were not illiterate. I mean, it's funny. Like I said, people try to throw on these tropes, these new identities, and they say things like, "Oh, they weren't illiterate, and they didn't know nothing." In the book, this is why I keep pointing back to the book that was written like over 100 years ago. They said, I mean, like the very first pastor, or one of the ones that they recognize, depending on which source you go to, you'll get one or the other. But Andrew Bryan learned to read and write, and it actually says that in the book, and that's how he was leading the church. He was reading from the Bible. Can you imagine a pastor that doesn't know how to read trying to teach from the Bible? Does that make any sense? But anyway, in the book, they tell you that he learned how to read and write, and then he went and taught at the church. So, just a lot of easy wins are in that book that people are trying to rewrite.
Well, I just want to say, for those of y'all who have not seen Reclaiming the Throne, you don't know what you're missing. I mean, y'all did such a phenomenal job on that documentary. I rented it. I plan on purchasing it because as a homeschool mom, it just offers such a wealth of history that I said, I want my children, especially my older children, to sit down and watch this. As a matter of fact, my eldest son, he's no longer homeschooled. He goes to an online private school. I spoke to his principal and I said, this is where you need to be teaching your history from. And I sent her Reclaiming the Throne. I said, wow. I want you to understand that when you think that there's not history out there about our people, that's because it's been hidden from our eyes. But we have the responsibility of educating our young people. And so I sent that to her and she didn't reply back to me, but she did let me know that she knows that we're the people. So I said, okay, well, that's at least a seed that was planted. But you guys did a phenomenal job. And I know that you covered the issue with the church pews on there. And I'm very glad that y'all are being very diligent about knocking down and debunking all of the claims against it, because it helps us to understand a greater degree of our history that happened here in the States, but how it carries way back to Spain and Portugal. So thank you for all of the work that you guys have been putting in to help us to learn more.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
And for those that would like a copy of the book, you could go to archive.org or, just search for the PDF. But the name of the book that our ancestors wrote, it's called History of the First African Baptist Church by Reverend E.K. Love, Doctor of Divinity. He wrote this book literally back in 1888, and everything that we're sharing, you can get this for free. You could download this for free, and you can look at it for yourself. This is not anything that we're making up. I mean, it's right there inside the book, of all the things that they stood for. I mean, what was it? A troublemaker even got called, referred to as a troublemaker in Israel. You know what I mean?
Man, because Israel is all over the place.
Yeah.
It is all over the place. I mean, like literally, if you walk into the church today, you walk into the church today, there's a plaque up near the front where it's commemorating and calling one of the fallen pastors Israel. I mean, actually, it calls him a prince in Israel. And I guess it's deep. It's deep, fam. I can tell you, we've barely scratched the surface on this one, and even to the point where, as you're walking in the church, and because you talked about, like, if you guys ever do check out reclaiming the throne, and most High willing, we are trying to get it out to other platforms, but fam, it just takes a while because we have to go through other distributors to get that done, and it's like an approval process, and it's like a whole bunch of steps in there, and you got to get it in the right format and whatnot. But praise be to the Most High. Yeah, we're making progress. So eventually, hopefully, we'll have it on other streaming platforms, and also for especially for Mother Shonda, if a lot of people like DVDs, so Most High willing, will hopefully have a DVD set out available as well on there. So
man, I'm still got the beta tape.
You got the beta tape. My kids will break them CDs and have them. You gotta do digital. You got the beta tapes, you said?
Yeah, how you doing? Got the beta tapes.
oh, not the beta tapes. Not the beta tapes. Yeah, but definitely, if you check out, Reclaiming the Throne, I mean, my cousin Pastor Kelly, I mean, he was rolling. I mean, there's a segment of him where he actually walks out the church, goes across the street, and starts giving the 411 on some of the monuments that's in the square. What's the name of that square, cuz?
I forgot the name of the square.
Is it Franklin Square?
Franklin Square, yeah, absolutely.
Franklin Square. Okay.
Franklin Square.
But, yeah, I mean, and he tells you about the slaves that's depicted in there. And guess what? They're Igbo. And guess what the Igbo are? The Igbo are called the Jews of Africa. So literally outside of the church, you have statues of Jews right outside the church. And then you have the whole thing about Israel and stuff inside the church. So it's amazing, family. And like I said,
what's interesting, they are called the Bantu people, right?
Yeah.
So that means that whether you want to use the term Bantu or Israelites, you have Bantus, statues of them right there at the church. Yeah. I mean, Bantu writings on some of the pews.
Bantu writings. You have Igbo landing in that's associated with Savannah as well. Jews. So yeah, it's over the top evidence of who we are, especially in that area.
I have a question. Maybe one of y'all can answer this for me. I was reading the book of Esther the other day, and it talked about how the fear of the Israelites came upon them in Susa when his directive didn't go to pass, but they were able to then defend themselves. And it says that many of the inhabitants converted and became Jews. So how do we distinguish between the bloodline and those who converted? Because I'm assuming they were all melanated people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, how do we make that distinguishment?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And Most High willing, in the next video, 100 proof video on it's called the DNA of Judah, or Judah's DNA. We're actually going to talk about that because it's funny because with all the evidence, it's funny, Mother, because all the evidence that's coming out, people are having to try to change their narrative. Like, okay, all right, y'all black. Okay, I mean the Jews were black. I'll give you that, but they were black-white. They were just kind of like white people, but they were tan, but they had long hair. But then you started showing them, references about them, how they have an African phenotype, how their the skull was, dully concephalic, and they say, okay. Well, maybe they had some black people in there, but maybe not all of them. But then you start showing them evidence where they said all the Jews were black, and all this other stuff. But long story short, along the way, people are having to fall back. And so now we've gotten to the point where people will say, all right, well, at least, okay, some of them were bruised, and maybe if you ask the right Ashkenazi, they'll say, okay, well, some of you guys are converts, right? Well, this is where things like DNA and archaeology comes into play. So the beauty of the American, of the DNA of the so-called American Negro is that we're pretty much all the same. Like if you like, for instance, if you look over in Africa, you'll have all these different DNA groups. We call them haplogroups. Probably 4 years ago, I used to give this example of jar jelly beans. Like if a DNA group was a different color or flavor in a jar of jelly beans, and you looked at the jar, you just have all these different colored jelly beans in there, right? So that would represent Africa. But here over in the U.S., the so-called African American, we're one type of jelly bean. Like if you looked at us, we would be all one color, right? All one size, same flavor, all that stuff over here in the United States. So what that means is that it's whenever we delve into our DNA, we're proving who we are as a group. Like it's not just like if I were my DNA and let's say for instance if we go over to GEDmatch and GEDmatch says, hey, yes, your DNA matches Morocco Jews, your DNA matches North African Jews, and we're able to make that connection all the way back to Israel. And I'm E1B1A, in other words, that's my jelly bean, right? That's my group. That means, guess what? Because that means that all of us are, right, as a group, right? And so what we're going to do is, like I said, most high will in this video is we're not only going to show our relationship to each other, but we're also going to show our relationship to to some of these other I hate using the word Jew, but brew groups. But we're also going to do things like look at archaeology, because one of the biggest discoveries that has been out there for a long time is like, all this time they've been digging up bones, they've been digging up, all these artifacts, and they've been making dates of things or whatnot. And they've been cataloging DNA as they went along. But I think just recently they started opening that information up for people to be able to test against and do some other analysis against. And the analysis that's coming out of that is that, oh, wait a minute, you black folks were actually over in Spain and Portugal. Oh, wait a minute, you guys were over in Granada, and all these other different major places, and Israel. That's another place I hadn't really talked about. But yes, our DNA has been found in Israel in some of these old archaeological sites. So, most high willing, we'll get into that, and we'll answer the questions that like Mother Ashanda had, like, how do I know that I'm Israel? How do I know that, I'm not a convert, and that sort of thing? Most high willing, we'll address that.
I'm looking forward.
And one key thing too, oh, go ahead, sis. I'm sorry.
No, I just said I'm looking forward to that, because I know he's always coming with fire, always coming with the receipts. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. And just real briefly too, when we think about it, remember Isaiah, let me pull it up here real quick, because it gives the criteria of those that are among Israel that want to basically dwell among and want to become citizens. Matter of fact, when you look at the Tanakh, the 1917 Tanakh, you'll see the word citizen. For example, in Exodus chapter 12, when it's dealing with one law for the homeborn and one law for the strangers that are among them, you'll see the word citizen. So when you look at Esther, you'll see when it says became Jew, really it's just simply put is that they became citizens of Israel. So that's really the distinction that you'll make between the two. I'm trying to pull up the Tanakh. Let me pull up the Tanakh real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. You go ahead, sis, while I'm pulling it up.
So when they were in Susa, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, was Esther a part of the northern tribe, or was she a part of the southern tribe? The southern kingdom of Israel. Which part was she in? Which kingdom was she a part of? The northern kingdom or the southern kingdom?
I thought she was part of the Southern Kingdom. Uh, but let me be clear. Let me pull it up just to make sure. Let
Because
me see.
like the southern kingdom went back to the land. So
Mhm.
was it like that the converts, when you say they became citizens of Israel, did they go back with them to Israel since they converted? Or how did that end up working out? Because I'm trying to understand, because I know the northern tribe didn't return. That's why I was asking
Right.
for the distinction on that. So when you say citizen, is that along the lines of what you mean, or something else?
Yeah, yeah. Well, two things. Yeah, she was actually from the tribe of Benjamin. Um, but you said what was the question again? I'm sorry.
So when you say like the converts that they went with her, they went with the southern tribe back to Judah. I'm saying, are you saying that that's what happened, or like how did they end up becoming citizens of Israel? Did they end up just kind of like just staying there and practicing the law, statutes, and commandments?
Yeah,
Or
basically.
okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your question. I want to cut you off.
No, I was just saying, like, because we know, like, okay, for example, you have Naomi and Ruth said, okay, your people, my people, your God is my God. And she went back to Israel with Naomi. So I'm wondering if that also happened with those in Susa, those converts, that when they left there and went back to Israel, did the converts go with them, or did they stay where they were and just practice the law, statutes, and commandments?
I believe that some of them went back with them. I mean, and even when you understand that from the perspective of they kept a journal of those who was actually uh, blood descendants of Israel. You know, when you start looking at, for example, Numbers, when you read the book of Numbers, you'll see that they kept a journal, they kept a log of every family, every household, who's descended from who. So even though there were strangers among them, right, and they were living as citizens of Israel, but there was still a distinction made between those who are blood descendants of Israel and those that are um, becoming citizens of Israel because of honoring the commandments of the Most High. Does,
Yeah.
does, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. There's still a distinction because of all the detailed records that were kept of the bloodline Israelites, and to separate them from the converts. So no, there was a distinction there. Well, it got lost obviously in translation with everything that happened with the dispersal and the various slave trades eventually. But that's what we're coming in to understand is where all of that was shifted. That's the work that you all are doing in terms of DNA, is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, but also, I mean, in some certain areas, though, like in Spain and Portugal, and we brought this out in a couple of lessons ago. Well, actually, no, probably a couple of years ago, actually, and that is like the Brews in Spain and Portugal. They had a couple of things going for them. One was they knew their genealogy. You can actually find their genealogy in, I think one of the places is a German document, where they literally take one of the branches on this tree and they could trace it all the way back to King David, King Solomon, King David. And that's actually in, I think we talk about it a little bit in the Yahya King David video. But basically, like to cousin Kelly's point, like, yeah, they had genealogy records back then that, they knew who they were. So they didn't, because remember when they went over to Spain and Portugal, they weren't like disconnected from their history. They were living in their history basically. So they knew who they were. They had the receipts for it. Not only that, the people that were dealing with them, that were fighting with them, I call them like the Visigoths, Gog, Magog, Esau, you name it. Those people in that region had been dealing with Israel, I mean, especially in particular the house of Judah, for almost like 1,000 years. So they knew who these people were. Like there was no question, like they were Israelites. And that's why when you look in these documents from years and years ago, way past the 1800s, like there was no ambiguity. There was no question that these were the brews. They were who they say they were. And once you establish that, because really the only questions that start to come out as far as, who these people are and where do they come from is, in the late 1800s, especially here over in the States, when the phenotype of the brews starts switching from black to white, that's when all of a sudden, well, wait a minute, they must be, you get these tropes or these narratives about, well, wait a minute, they must be converts, or wait a minute, they must be slaves that came in, that sort of stuff. And that's why I always tell people to read the old references, because that's when that sort of thing happened. But yeah, it's layered, and I know I'm giving like a long answer, but it's layered. Layer one, you got the genealogy that they had in hand. Layer two, where they had confirmation by the people that lived around them. Layer 3 and 4, you got the archaeology that's over there. There's actually even grave sites where they've done DNA analysis where people are buried in the Jewish manner, that sort of thing. And there's a few others in there that I don't want to go into right now.
But I appreciate you like doing the hard work of like laying it out and ordering it, because it's so important for us to understand, those of us, I still very much consider myself a novice when it comes to understanding, the complexities of our history and separating converts from bloodline and just rightly dividing the word of truth. So I really appreciate the labor that y'all are putting in. Pastor Kelly, B'nai Israel, I appreciate all the work that y'all are doing, even with Hebrew Nation Building, because it helps to take us back to a place of authentic worship and understanding of our roots. So, I'm glad to even be able to ask some of these questions, because the other day I was kind of scratching my head a little bit, and I said, well, what is this right here? I hadn't read, I had read the book of Esther so many times before, but I hadn't seen that in particular. So I appreciate y'all giving me some clarity on that. Thank you.
And I think a good book, if you get a chance, go through the book of Numbers. We're actually at our Bible study right now. I'm walking them through the book of Numbers. Right now, we're on chapter 6. We just started the series on it. But when you go through the book of Numbers, it'll give you even proper clarity on the book of life, right? When you start really seeing that, it's like, wow. When you understand the term blotted out, let's say, for example, remember Aaron's sons, strange fires lifted up strange fires to the Most High. Well, when you read it, they didn't have any descendants. And if they did, their descendants would have been blotted out. What that means is they would have been destroyed. They would have been burned. They would have been, completely destroyed, wiped out. But then also their names would have been removed from the log. Just like, what's his name? Achan and Joshua chapter 7. He was killed because of the strange stuff that these stealing garments and all that and so forth, idols. But he was completely destroyed. His family, everyone, his entire lineage was completely destroyed. His property, everything was burned. And so his name was actually removed from the journal, the log.
Wow, that is deep. Well, guys, I want to thank y'all for y'all time. I got to get ready to go, but I really appreciate, you invited me on the panel, Pastor Kelly. Keep up the y'all work. Both of y'all, I honor both of y'all in high regard. You know that. And I'm honored to labor among you. So thank you so much. And I'm getting ready to go catch my snooze on. So peace and blessings.
Well, likewise, sis. We love you, and keep doing what you're doing. We're here. If you need us for anything, let us know. Anytime you're available, I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to at least give you the opportunity to come on, because I really appreciate everything that you are doing for the people of the Most High.
Hallelujah. Good night, family. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
I'm on. Peace and blessings. All right, cuz. So anything you want to share with the people before we wrap up?
No, just have a awesome Shabbat, fam. And like I said, Most High willing, we'll get some more information out next week. As far as like the posts and Facebook and stuff like that, it may be a little little slow because I'm like I said, I'm gonna be out of pocket for the most part next week, so the cadence may be a little off. But the week after that, it should return back to I guess the new normal, which is what I was trying to do, which is just share a little bit of information each day, just to show you that, hey, there's a whole lot of information out there, and we can actually do, there's enough to do. If we had to do it like every day of the year, we could like every day 365, we could drop something new. Like, hey, did you know about this? Hey, did you know about that? Here's another reference. We could do that for 365. So just want to help enlighten some folks along the way. So most high willing.
Because definitely appreciate all that you do, and just being able to labor with you. It's truly an honor, and I really thank the Most High for him giving you the gift of research and going through history, not just researching history, getting sources, but knowing how to go through the sources, because you have a lot of people that have sources, but they don't know how to like go through and sift through the sources to really extract out of it key information, helpful information, and then knowing how to translate that over to the people.
Yeah, all glory and praises to the Most High, man. Actually, it's funny because I found myself, I believe the Most High had me kind of focus on that point in time in history, especially like Spain, Portugal, and that time period of the transatlantic slave trade. And what I found was that like the more time you spend in it, the more domain knowledge you gain from it. Like in other words, you start to see like all the different threads that were going on at the same time that impacted what happened. And I think I praise the Most High because I can see that it's very complex. It's not like a single threaded event. Like I can just trace it on a single timeline. Like even now as we speak, like the one timeline that we've talked about, going up through Spain and Portugal, like that's just one way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there are other paths that our forefathers have taken. Some may not have even gone into, Spain and Portugal, and, people are, running their DNA, but they're also noticing something special about their DNA when they run it. And like I said, most high willing, we'll get into that because there's a special connection in most African Americans' DNA that they can't explain, that most high willing we'll get into.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, cuz. Really appreciate it. And family, we'll pick up on this lesson another time because I enjoyed like having discussions like this, off the cuff discussions. And we'll get into the lesson. We'll continue on with it, the deception of the English language. We'll deal with that. Matter of fact, we'll make it a special playbook this upcoming Thursday. But again, be on the lookout for the video we're going to drop over the weekend. And the road to Savannah, I will have that done. I'm going to give it another 3 weeks and going to share some very explosive sources there, further proving that we are the people of the book. Sources you will least expect that is telling us that the Negroes here in America, we are Israelites. And I'm going to share that source next when I do part 2, and some additional sources that many of you guys are not aware of, but some of the sources to confirm a lot of the sources that Benea has been sharing with us. So really appreciate you guys. Go ahead, cuz.
I was gonna say, and not shared yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some things we're going to share with you guys.
Ooh, fam.
And I encourage you guys, just go to look up the book, First African Baptist Church book, pull it up, read it for yourself. And that way it'll answer a lot of questions. Don't let the naysayers convince you to saying that, hey, this place doesn't matter. The pews doesn't matter. It all matters because we have a physical location of our ancestors, proving that they wrote Hebrew, proving that they wrote Ge'ez is on the pews, proving that they wrote Bantu languages such as the Nsibiti language. That is a Bantu language. right? Because the Igbos are considered Bantu people, right? The Limbas, Bantu people. So I encourage you guys, read that source. And now that the place is open, they open up the facilities, go visit it. Don't let anyone discourage you about that location, because it does matter. That is a piece of history that we have on this soil here that really does a lot with connecting the dots. What do you think, cuz about that?
Man, the I just keep saying, like in my mind, I keep thinking, man, the very first Black African American church in this country, they said that they was Israel. Think about that. The very first church, the very first group of Black people that came under a house on Sunday, right? That was their own. I guess maybe that's the differentiator, right? Like this was their own house, right? They called themselves Israel. Like, to me, like that's major, fam. That's major. And this isn't Benaiah saying that. This is in that book that Pastor Kelly was talking about. Like, in that book, they said that they're Israel. They're calling their pastors Israel. So, wow. I mean, you trying to figure out if you Israel or not, and you go to church on Sunday. How about this? The very first church, that Black church that came together on Sunday morning, called themselves Israel. That's it.
And family, even when you look at even beyond that church, you look at the first Methodist churches of our ancestors, they referred to themselves as Israelites. So it wasn't just what the church community, many of these different types of apologists out there trying to tell you that Cherry, Pastor Cherry, and what's the other pastor? Can't think of the other pastor. That they try to give credit by saying that they started the Hebrew grass movement. The labels that they come up with, but Crowdy, I believe Crowder or Crowdy. Yeah, Crowder. I think that's his name. But the first African Baptist church was around well before they were even born. And they were identifying as Israelites. And when you look at the early Methodist churches, you'll see our ancestors refer to themselves as Israelites before these guys were born. So this is a very, very great piece of information that I encourage you guys to download. And you don't even have to pay for it; it's free. And make way out there. Make your way out there. Anything else on Benaiah before we wrap up?
No, just know your history. I think that probably the reason why we even get pushback is because most of our brothers and sisters are in the same place that I was at 5-6 years ago, and that is I didn't know my history, and it wasn't until I started reading some of these old words from our forefathers, because really that's what we're doing. We're reading up the old words from our forefathers, and it's almost like they're bringing us back. Like, hey, read this book. Read my words from over 100 years ago. You wasn't that. This is who you were. That sort of thing. So, yeah, get to know your history, fam, because it's amazing when you think about it.
Absolutely, and be on the lookout, family. We have more information that's going to come down the pipe soon. So just be on the lookout for it. But appreciate you guys for pressing out tonight. Have a great Shabbat. And like I always do, I'm going to make a reference to Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. That is the words that the Most High gave Moses to encourage the children of Israel as they came out of Egypt. They came to what seemed to be a dead end. They had the Egyptians coming up from behind. They didn't know what to do. So they began to complain. And Moses, through the Most High, encouraged them. He said to them, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh. The Most High will fight for you." Well, matter of fact, it said, these Egyptians that you see here today, you won't ever have to deal with them ever again. They will not have any power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.